The rain-slicked streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium glow of streetlights, each petal reflecting the city's restless pulse. I gripped the steering wheel of my beat-up Corolla, the engine sputtering like it was as tired as I was. My name is Selene Vaughn, and tonight I was driving back into a past I'd spent years trying to outrun. My childhood home in Queen Anne loomed ahead, its Victorian silhouette cutting through the drizzle like a ghost that refused to fade. The invitation to this family dinner had arrived in my inbox like a court summons, curt, formal, and dripping with my mother Eleanor's passive-aggressive cursive. "We expect you at 7 p.m. sharp. Don't be late, Selene." As if I'd ever been late to their carefully choreographed humiliations, I swerved to avoid a black SUV that roared out of a side street, its headlights blinding me for a split second. My heart slammed against my ribs, the tires screeching as I jerked the wheel. The SUV didn't slow, didn't signal, just vanished into the wet night. I exhaled, my knuckles white, and muttered a curse under my breath. Seattle drivers were reckless, but something about that near miss felt personal, like the city itself was warning me to turn back. I couldn't, not when I had something to prove. The house came into view, its steeply pitched roof, and black shutters as familiar as a recurring nightmare. The Vaughn family crest built on grace was etched into a brass plaque by the front door, a lie so polished it gleamed. I parked 2 blocks down next to a dumpster overflowing with soggy cardboard and takeout containers. The irony wasn't lost on me. My family always said I belonged with the trash, the leftover daughter who never quite fit their polished narrative of success. My boots crunched against the gravel as I walked, the rain soaking through my cashmere-coated thrift store. Find I'd never admit to them was secondhand. Each step felt heavier, not from hesitation, but from the weight of years spent shrinking myself to fit their expectations. The porch light flickered as I approached, casting long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawn. I paused at the doormat, the embroidered words Vaughn family, built on grace, staring up at me like a challenge. I stepped over it without wiping my boots, a small act of defiance that felt louder than it should. The door was unlocked, as always, Eleanor. Like to pretend we were the kind of family that welcomed anyone. I pushed it open, and the scent of rosemary and roasted lamb hit me, mingling with the sharp tang of lemon polish. The hallway echoed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the low hum of conversation. No one came to greet me. No surprise there. I unbuttoned my coat, the warmth of the house prickling my skin, and stepped into the dining room. The long mahogany table was set for a feast, crystal wine glasses catching the chandelier's glow. Every chair was occupied except one at the far end, shoved back like an afterthought. My sister Ava sat at the head of the table, her blonde hair swept into a perfect chignon, her red dress screaming money. She looked up, her gaze sliding from my scuffed boots to my damp hair. "Still taking the bus, Selene?" she asked, her voice soft but sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. The room didn't laugh, but the silence was worse thick, judgmental and suffocating. My father, Victor, didn't bother looking up from his plate, just grunted as he sliced into his lamb. My mother, Eleanor, turned slightly, her lips pressed into a tight line, her pearl necklace gleaming like a noose around her neck. "That coat," she said, her tone dripping with false concern. "Still wearing it? Vintage, I assume?" I didn't answer. I pulled out the lone chair, its legs scraping against the hardwood floor, and sat down. The sound echoed louder than I intended, drawing a few glances, but no one spoke to me directly. I folded the napkin across my lap, its starched edges rough against my fingers, and focused on the plate of roasted vegetables in front of me. Ava raised her wine glass, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "To family," she said, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Even the ones who show up like uninvited guests." No one laughed, but no one stopped her either. I felt the familiar sting of their dismissal, the way they'd always made me feel like I was taking up space that wasn't mine. I picked up my fork, spearing a piece of zucchini, and kept my eyes down. I hadn't come here to fight. Not yet. The conversation flowed around me like a river I wasn't allowed to touch. Ava launched into a monologue about her new real estate. Firm in Bellevue, name-dropping tech moguls and waterfront properties. Victor nodded, his approval as predictable as the rain outside. Eleanor chimed in about her latest charity gala, boasting about raising $50,000 for a local art museum. It's all for the community, she said, her voice syrupy with self-righteousness. I ate in silence, aware of the occasional glance thrown my way quick, fleeting like they were checking if I'd finally disappear. Then it came, the question I'd been waiting for. So, Len, Eleanor said, her tone falsely bright. How's everything? Still scraping by on that little project of yours? Before I could answer, Ava leaned in, her lips curling into a smirk. Or did the city finally evict you from that closet you call an apartment? The table went quiet, the kind of silence that hums with anticipation, waiting for me to crumble. I set my fork down, deliberate and slow. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. I reached for my water glass, and as I did, my sleeve slipped up, revealing the glint of a diamond ring on my finger. Not just any ring, a rare, oval-cut diamond, its brilliance cutting through the dim light like a beacon. The table froze. Eleanor's eyes widened, her wine glass trembling in her hand. Victor blinked, his fork hovering mid-air. Ava's jaw tightened, her smirk vanishing like smoke. Is that... Eleanor started, her voice catching. I turned the ring slowly with my thumb, letting the light dance across its facets. Oh, this? I said, my voice calm, almost bored. Just something I picked up on a slow day. No one spoke. The clatter of silverware stopped. The air in the room felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. I looked at each of them, Eleanor, Victor, Ava, and saw the question burning in their eyes. How? But I wasn't here to explain. Not yet. I sipped my water, the ice clinking softly against the glass, and smiled. I'm not here to talk about jewelry, I said, my voice low but steady. I'm here for her. The words landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading across the table. I turned my gaze to the empty chair at the far end, its oak frame worn smooth from years of Grandma Rose's knitting needles tapping against it. I could still see her there, her frail hands wrapped in a lavender shawl, her eyes warm with a love no one else in this room had ever offered me. Did no one set a place for her? I asked, not accusing, just honest. A fork clinked against a plate. Eleanor looked away, her lips thinning. She's not coming back, Selene, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded once, my eyes still on the empty chair. No, I said. Neither am I not if this is how you choose to remember her. The silence that followed was heavier than the rain outside. I pushed my chair back, the scrape of wood against wood echoing like a gunshot. I stood, my movements slow, deliberate. The ring on my finger caught the light again, a silent reminder of everything they didn't know about me. I walked to the chair and draped Grandma Rose's lavender shawl over its back, the tiny pearls she'd sewn into it glinting faintly. No one moved. No one spoke. I turned and headed for the hallway, my boots clicking against the polished floor. The family portraits lining the walls stared down at me, their fake smiles frozen in time. I paused at the spot where Grandma Rose's photo used to hang a black and white of her in a rose garden, her smile soft and real. Now it was gone, replaced by a glossy ad for Ava's real estate firm, her airbrushed face beaming under the words Vaughn Properties, your future, our legacy. My stomach twisted. They hadn't just erased her. They'd rewritten her. I reached out, my fingers brushing the cold frame of Ava's ad. She built this house with her hands, I said, my voice low but steady. Ava's chair creaked as she stood. And you ruined it with your tears, she snapped, her words sharp but brittle. I turned to face her, meeting her eyes. No, I said. I just refused to sell her for status. The words hit harder than I expected. Ava's face didn't move, but something flickered in her eyes, doubt, maybe, or the first crack in her carefully curated confidence. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out of the dining room, past the kitchen where the scent of lambs still lingered, and into the foyer. The rain had picked up outside, hammering against the windows like it wanted to break in. I grabbed my coat, but before I could leave, a shadow moved in the corner of my eye. I spun around, my pulse spiking. A figure stood in the darkened hallway, too tall to be Eleanor or Ava. "Who's there?" I called, my voice sharper than I intended. No answer. The figure stepped back, melting into the shadows. My hand tightened around the doorknob, but I didn't run. Not yet. I'd spent too many years running from this house, from these people. Tonight, I was done. I stepped outside, the rain soaking through my coat in seconds. The street was empty, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see that figure again. But there was nothing, just the house, its windows glowing like eyes watching me go. I hurried to my car, the key slipping in my wet hands. As I fumbled to unlock the door, a low rumble cut through the rain, a car engine, too close. Headlights flared, and I dove to the side just as a black SUV sped past, missing me by inches. The same one from earlier. My breath caught, my heart pounding as I scrambled to my feet, the rain stinging my face. I slid into the driver's seat, locking the doors. My hands shook as I started the engine, the Corolla coughing to life. I didn't know who was driving that SUV, but it wasn't a coincidence. Someone didn't want me here. I pulled onto the road, the wipers slapping against the windshield, and glanced at the ring on my finger. Its weight felt heavier now, not just a symbol of wealth, but a beacon for trouble. Grandma Rose had left me more than money. She'd left me a fight. I drove through the city, the lights of downtown Seattle blurring in the rain. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. I didn't need to see Ava's name on the screen to know she'd be texting, probably accusing. Emmy of theatrics. Let her? Let them all think I was still the broken girl they could push around. They didn't know about the key in my pocket. The one Rose had slipped to me in her final days, her voice a whisper as she pressed it into my hand. "For when you're ready, Solène. For when they see you." I didn't know what it opened not yet, but I knew it was the start of something they never see coming. The road curved toward Lake Washington, the water dark and restless under the storm. I pulled into a gas station, the neon sign flickering like a bad omen. As I filled the tank, a man in a hoodie lingered by the pumps, his face hidden under the brim. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. My grip tightened on the nozzle. I'd grown up in a house where silence was a weapon, but this felt different, colder, sharper. I finished pumping, got back in the car, and locked the doors again. The man didn't follow, but his stare stayed with me, heavy as the ring on my finger. Back on the road, I headed for my apartment in Capitol Hill, a cramped studio that barely fit a bed and a desk. Ava wasn't wrong about one thing, it wasn't much, but it was mine, paid for with late nights at the diner and freelance coding gigs no one in my family knew about. They thought I was scraping by, a failure who couldn't keep up with their glittering lives. They didn't know about the offshore account, the investments I'd made with Rose's guidance, or the diamond on my finger that could buy their entire world twice over. I parked in the alley behind my building, the rain finally easing into a drizzle. As I climbed the stairs, my phone buzzed again. This time, I checked it. A text from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have come back." My blood ran cold. I scanned the alley, but it was empty, the shadows still. I slipped inside, double locking the door and leaned against it, my breath uneven. The rain glinted in the dim light of my apartment, a silent question I wasn't ready to answer. I sank onto the couch, pulling Rose's shawl from my bag. It still smelled faintly of her lavender perfume, the scent grounding me as my mind raced. Who was in the hallway? Who sent that text? And why did that SUV keep showing up? I traced the pearls sewn into the shawl, each one a tiny piece of her strength. She'd called me her quiet hawk, watchful and fierce. I hadn't believed her then, but now with the key in my pocket and the ring on my finger, I was starting to. The city hummed outside, oblivious to the storm brewing in my life. I didn't know what was coming, but I knew one thing. I wasn't the leftover anymore. I was the heir, the one Rose had trusted, the one they underestimated. And tonight, I'd taken the first step toward making them see me not as a ghost, but as a reckoning. The fluorescent lights of my Capitol Hill studio buzzed faintly, casting a sterile glow over the cluttered desk where I sat, Grandma Rose's lavender shawl draped over my shoulders like armor. The key she'd given me lay on the table, its polished brass catching the light, whispering secrets I wasn't yet ready to unravel. My phone screen glowed with the anonymous text from last night. You shouldn't have come back. My pulse hadn't stopped racing since. Seattle's rain had slowed to a drizzle outside, but the storm inside me was just beginning. I'm Selene Vaughn, and I walked back into my family's world with a $69 million diamond ring on my finger in a fight I didn't ask for, but couldn't avoid. The clock on my wall ticked past midnight, each second a reminder that time was slipping away. I hadn't slept. Not really, just a few restless hours haunted by the memory of that shadowed figure in the hallway and the black SUV that nearly ran me off the road. I traced the ring's oval cut with my thumb, its weight both a comfort and a warning. Grandma Rose had left me more than wealth. She'd left me a legacy that someone, maybe everyone in that house, wanted buried. A sharp knock at the door jolted me upright. My heart slammed against my ribs. I glanced at the deadbolt, double-locked as always, and crept to the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, her face half hidden by a scarf, her eyes sharp and familiar. Aunt Clara. I exhaled, my shoulders loosening, and opened the door. You shouldn't be here this late, I said, stepping aside to let her in. She unwrapped her scarf, revealing the same tired smile I remembered from childhood, but her eyes were shadowed with something heavier, grief, maybe, or fear. I didn't think you'd actually come back to Seattle, Clara said, her voice low as she sank onto my threadbare couch. But Rose knew you would. She reached into her oversized tote and pulled out a yellowed envelope, my name scrawled across it in Rose's looping handwriting. For Selene, only her. My fingers hesitated before taking it, the paper heavier than it should have been. She made me promise to give you this, Clara whispered. After the funeral, she said, not before. I broke the seal, my hands steady despite the tremor in my chest. Inside was a notarized will, a handwritten letter, and a grainy photo of Rose, Clara, and me on a porch in Oregon, laughing under a summer sun. The will named me the sole heir to the Queen Anne house, a 10-acre plot in Montana, and a savings account I hadn't dared dream existed. The letter was shorter, Rose's. Words cutting through time. My Selene, you stayed when they walked away. They came from my things, not my heart. Everything's yours now. Be strong. They'll fight you, but you're stronger. Love, always, Rose. I looked up at Clara, my throat tight. They'll contest this, I said, already knowing the battle. Ahead, she nodded, her eyes glinting with something fierce. They can try, but Rose was sharp to the end. She made sure it's ironclad. I folded the letter, tucking it back into the envelope, but before I could speak, a loud crash echoed from the alley below. Glass shattered, followed by the screech of tires. I rushed to the window, yanking the curtain aside. My Corolla's rear windshield was a spiderweb of cracks, a brick lying in the back seat. The black SUV peeled out, its taillights vanishing into the night. Get down, Clara hissed, pulling me to the floor. My heart pounded, adrenaline flooding my veins. They know, I whispered, the realization sinking in. Someone Eleanor, Victor, Ava, or someone they'd sent knew about the will. The ring, the key! Clara's hand gripped mine, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. You need to move fast, Selene. They won't stop at a brick. I nodded, my mind racing. I grabbed the envelope and key, stuffing them into my bag. I'm going to Bellevue, I said. Tobias Field's office. He notarized this. I need answers. Clara hesitated, then handed me a slip of paper with an address. Meet me here tomorrow. It's safe. Rose trusted him. I didn't ask who he was. There wasn't time. The drive to Bellevue was a blur of rain and headlights. My nerves on edge as I scanned the rearview mirror for that SUV. The streets were quiet, but every shadow felt like a threat. At a red light, my phone buzzed again, another text from an unknown number. Leave the wheel alone, or you won't leave at all. I gripped the wheel tighter, my knuckles white. I wasn't running. Not anymore. Tobias Field's office was in a nondescript strip mall, its frosted glass door marked only by dull blue lettering. I parked in the shadows, my eyes darting to every passing car. Inside, the waiting area was empty, the hum of an old fan the only sound. A man in his 60s emerged from the back, his gray hair thinning, his handshake firm. "Ms. Vaughn," he said, his voice calm but deliberate. Rose spoke. "Highly of you." He led me to a small office, blinds half-drawn, stacks of files leaning like tired soldiers against the wall. "She came here alone," Tobias said, sliding a folder across the desk. "A year ago. Told me exactly what she wanted. Every details in their house, land, accounts, all yours." I opened the folder, my breath catching at the numbers. $3.1 million in diversified accounts, bonds, and the Montana property. And then there was the ring, listed as a personal item, with a valuation that made my head spin, $69 million. I looked up, my voice steady despite the weight of it all. "They'll say she wasn't in her right mind." Tobias leaned back, his eyes sharp. "They can try. I've got her medical records, witness statements, even a video of her signing. She knew what she was doing." He paused, his gaze softening. "She said you were the only one who saw her, really saw her." I swallowed hard. The memory of Rose's frail hand in mine flashing through my mind, her whispered words. "You're enough, Selene." A loud thud against the door snapped me back. Tobias froze, his hand reaching for the phone. "Stay here,"